8-year-old Mastermind takes down Kidnapper, the Astonishing Shasta Groene Incident. Imagine a seemingly ordinary scene at a gas station. You see a father and his daughter in a blue shirt. It's a common sight, right? But take a closer look. Something isn't quite right. The girl keeps her distance, her arms crossed, avoiding eye contact. She calls him Dad, but he's not her father. The unsettling encounter is just the beginning of a chilling story that unfolded on July 2nd, 2005. Before we move any further with the topic, do remember to subscribe to our channel, CrimeFlix, to never miss any updates from us. Meet the Groene family, living in the picturesque Coeur, Idaho. Shasta Groene, an 8-year-old girl, shares her world with her two older brothers, Dylan and Slade, her mom Brenda, and her mom's boyfriend, Mark. The morning of May 16, 2005 started like any other day for Shasta, but it quickly turned into a nightmare. Brenda, her mother, rushed into her room, panic in her eyes. A man with a shotgun had invaded their home. At first, Shasta believed he was a police officer, but the truth was horrifyingly different. The man tied them up with zip ties and duct tape. The family's pleas fell on deaf ears as he brutally attacked them one by one. The safety and comfort of their home was shattered in an instant. As the sun set on that fateful day, Shasta and Dylan found themselves separated from the rest of their family, bound by the same terror. The man who called himself their dad had a sinister plan, one that would change the very essence of their beings. The Groene family's nightmare continued as they were separated from their captor and driven almost 100 miles away to a remote campground in the Lolo National Forest, Montana. In the car, Shasta and Dylan felt a growing sense of dread. The man behind the wheel had already revealed a chilling secret. He had murdered their mother, Mark, and Slade. The man whose meticulous planning had allowed him to commit the perfect crime showed them the murder weapon, a hammer, and callously explained how he had ended the lives of their loved ones. Shasta and Dylan were isolated from the rest of the world, their pleas for help unanswered, and their cries stifled by their captor's cruel intentions. Shasta and Dylan's ordeal continued in the isolated wilderness of the Lolo National Forest. The man who had abducted them was not content with merely holding them captive. He reveled in tormenting them physically and mentally. His anger and aggression were unpredictable, and he would often take out his frustrations on Dylan, forcing Shasta to bear witness to her brother's suffering. As the days turned into weeks, the kidnapper's manipulation escalated. He began toying with their emotions, offering false hope by suggesting they might be allowed to return home. Shasta and Dylan, desperate for any glimmer of light in their dark predicament, wrote letters to their family, expressing their longing to reunite. However, these letters would never reach their intended recipients. The kidnapper's mind games were just another form of cruelty, a way to maintain control over his young victims. Back in Coeur, the discovery of the Groene family's horrific fate triggered a frantic search for Shasta and Dylan. The community was gripped by fear as the police issued an Amber Alert, and thousands of tips poured in. But the case was far from typical. There was no indication of theft, and the brutality of the murders suggested a personal motive. Suspicions initially fell against family members, including the children's father, Steve. The recent custody dispute raised eyebrows, and Steve's emotional pleas for their safe return seemed oddly timed. A polygraph test added to the tension, but computer forensics would ultimately clear him of suspicions. The search for the missing children entered a baffling phase, with no clear leads and the fear that time was running out. Inside the secluded campsite, Shasta and Dylan clung to each other as their captor subjected them to unimaginable horrors. Despite her young age, Shasta displayed remarkable resilience. She realized that her captor had developed an unsettling attachment to her, and she saw an opportunity to manipulate him. Shasta began asking questions about his life, feigning affection and interest in the man she called Dad. Her efforts paid off as the captor's demeanor softened slightly. He even started to treat them with a bit more kindness. Shasta's ability to control him, even in the smallest ways, became her lifeline. As she continued to build a fragile rapport with her captor, she knew that her survival depended on maintaining his trust, all while plotting her eventual escape. In the midst of their captivity, Shasta and Dylan's lives took a dark turn. Their kidnapper, growing increasingly unstable, forced them into substance abuse. He reveled in recounting horrifying stories of past crimes, even describing the details of other children's murders. She used this time to carefully study her captor, learning what made him tick. She recognized that he felt a particular connection to her and decided to exploit it. By pretending to be his friend, she aimed to gain his trust and inch closer to her ultimate goal: escape. Before we move any further with the topic, do remember to subscribe to our channel CrimeFlix to never miss any updates from us. As Shasta continued her manipulative efforts, the captor, whom they called Dad, began to exhibit moments of vulnerability. He questioned her about her feelings and aspirations. Shasta seized on this opportunity, asking about his family and expressing a desire to meet them one day. Her emotional manipulation had a profound effect, and their kidnapper began to trust her more, and his demeanor softened, albeit only slightly. It was July 2nd, 2005, 7 weeks into their horrific ordeal. Shasta sensed a rare opportunity for escape when the kidnapper suggested that she call him Dad and proposed taking her to meet his mother. Seizing this moment, Shasta asked if he could take her back to Coeur where she could show him her school and introduce him to her best friend. Her gambit was risky, but it held the promise of bringing her closer to civilization, to people who might help her. Almost 2 months after their abduction, Shasta and the kidnapper returned to Coeur, stopping at a convenience store. Desperate to attract attention, Shasta held on to hope as she made eye contact with a stranger. A series of events unfolded inside that store, leading to her miraculous rescue. The community's relentless search for the missing children had finally paid off, and Shasta was one step closer to safety. The store manager, reviewing security footage, recognized her and alerted the police. Officers rushed to the scene and with a mix of anxiety and anticipation approached the young girl. Shasta, fearful that her captor might somehow escape with her, cautiously revealed her identity. The man who had subjected her to unspeakable horrors was taken into custody, while Shasta was finally free from his grasp. As the news of her rescue spread, the community erupted in applause, celebrating the safe return of the courageous girl who had endured unthinkable hardships for nearly 2 months. In the aftermath of Shasta's rescue, the full extent of her ordeal became painfully clear. She courageously recounted her harrowing experience, including the gruesome details of her family's murder, her brother Dylan's tragic death, and the unimaginable torment she and Dylan had suffered at the hands of their captor. Authorities would later discover a disturbing piece of evidence: video recordings made by the kidnapper documenting the horrific abuse inflicted upon the 2 children. These chilling recordings would become a crucial part of the case against the man responsible for the Groene family's tragedy. The man who had terrorized the Groene family and abducted Shasta and Dylan was identified as Joseph Duncan, a level 3 sex offender. His history of violence and predation on children sent shockwaves throughout the community and law enforcement agencies. Duncan eventually confessed to his crimes, providing further insights into his twisted motives and methodology, stalking the Groene family before striking, and then subjected Shasta and Dylan to a living nightmare. Though Shasta had been scarred by her experience, her strength and ability to forgive the man who had caused her so much pain were a testament to her extraordinary spirit. With her past behind her, she embraced the future with hope, determined to make a positive impact on the world and help others who had faced similar hardships. And that's all for today, folks. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel CrimeFlix, and don't forget to press the bell notification icon to never miss out on any of our future uploads. I'll see you in the next one, and until then, I bid you farewell.